Hey guys, welcome back. Dietitian Vanessa here, and I am back with Hooked by Michael Moss. I wanted to make another video because this book was just so interesting to me. But today I want to talk about the nutrition food label and why it's so hard for us to go into the grocery store and figure out what foods are healthy for us or not. So the nutrition food label, if you guys didn't know, it actually didn't exist before the 1990s. So before the 1990s, food companies could write, basically whatever they wanted in the food package. But a lot of consumers were starting to want to know, what are you adding to our foods? What ingredients? What's, the nutrition breakdown of these foods? So in 1990, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, came up with the Nutrition Labeling and Education Act. And this is basically where they formed the nutrition label. And during this time, the food companies were so on board with this nutrition food label, but I think that they kind of had a special interest, because if you look at the nutrition food label, it's not very helpful. And I think this is by design, because during this time, they didn't know what information to add into the label. It was a big debate, and whether the nutrition food label should tell us to avoid the food or not. And if you think about it, if we had a nutrition food label that it was so easy for consumers to understand, that's kind of a threat to the food industry. Because if we can easily go into the grocery store and look at all of the products in the grocery store and know, you're not good for me, you're healthy, you're not, you are, then that would be a threat, because then we would know exactly what to pick. But when you look at the nutrition food label, we know that this isn't the case. We know that we're super confused when we go shopping. So a nutrition food label has a bunch of information, bunch of numbers, calories, total fat, fiber, sugar, protein, some vitamins of concern like vitamin D. And it gives us numbers, it gives us grams, and it gives us milligrams. But the thing is, we as consumers, or most consumers, have no idea what to do with that information. So if you see it has 130 milligrams of sodium, is that high or is that low? If you see that a food product has 24 grams of sugar, same question. Is it high or is it low? Most people do not know the answer. And I think the food industry kind of knows that. And I don't know why the government or the FDA hasn't done a better job with the nutrition food label. But that kind of takes me to my other point, because I know maybe you can be frustrated, or people get frustrated with this information. And even, I understand why it's frustrating. But the thing for you to know is that processed foods, or ultra processed foods, which are basically foods that are in a package that contain salt, fat, and sodium, and contain other ingredients like artificial sweeteners, artificial food coloring, emulsifiers, preservatives. So these ingredients that are used almost exclusively by the food industry, they are not healthy for us. They're not the best food for us to be consuming. They're more like indulgences, right? If you're having a party, or, whatever, once a week or once every 2 weeks. But they're not health foods. But the thing is that our grocery store is so filled with these packaged foods, whether it's a bar of chocolate or whether it's a ready-to-eat meal that you just have to heat up, or a frozen pizza or a frozen meal. They have all of these added ingredients. So what do we do? Well, for one, I think we just have to be vigilant about our food and be aware that the food that we see at the grocery store, especially the food that is in packet, its number one goal is to be purchased. That's its number one goal. It's not to improve your health. It's to be purchased, because that's the goal of the food company, which there's nothing wrong with that. A business is a business, and I like businesses, but that's the number one goal. So don't be surprised if it says, that it's heart healthy and it's not, because the reason why they put heart healthy is more marketing. It's to get us to feel good about it, feel that it's going to be good for us, and then purchase it. So I think knowing more about these marketing tactics could be more helpful sometimes than even learning how to read a nutrition label. Because even if you think or even if you know how to read a nutrition label, that can also be tricky, where you can pick a food product because it's lower sugar than another food product, but maybe that lower sugar came with higher sodium, or maybe it came with ingredients that can affect your metabolic health, can cause it or make it harder for you to like lose weight, or contribute to blood sugar and cholesterol and things like that. Because some of these ingredients that are in foods, they're not actually tested for how they affect our metabolic health. They're just tested for kind of like toxicity, to make sure that they're not going to cause anybody to like die or get cancer or whatever. And that's also another misconception, that consumers think that it's been taken care of, that it's been tested, that it's good for me, that if it wasn't good for me, it wouldn't be in this food product. And that's not true. It's not entirely true. It's not going to kill you. That's why it's in the food product. But it may affect your metabolic health. We don't know because it hasn't actually been tested. Because think about it. Why would the companies who make artificial food coloring, why would they test the artificial food coloring to see if it's healthy for us or not? Like, we're already using it. What if it's not healthy? Then that's going to make people not purchase products with artificial food coloring. Same with artificial sweeteners, right? Why would they share results with us that show that artificial sweeteners are not, a good option for people who have diabetes or whatever the case? So don't be so trusting. Just because an ingredient is in our food product doesn't mean that it's good for metabolic health, meaning your weight, your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and your cholesterol. So we have to be really aware of that. One of the ways that I try to kind of balance things out is by trying to consume more whole foods. So these are foods that come from a tree, from the ground, come straight from an animal. That kind of works for me. And then just decrease my packaged food consumption to like 10%, every time that I shop. So I look at my grocery cart, only 10% of it is in a package. So that's one way that I do it. But honestly, you can just start with just being aware that food companies just want us to buy their products. So whether they write on it, that it's organic or heart healthy or whatever, even though it may or may not be true, it's still marketing. It's still the number one objective is to get us to buy food. So just try to eat more whole foods, decrease your sugar consumption, exercise more, and just learn more about this information, I think would be helpful. And if you want to learn more, check out Hooked by Michael Moss. It's honestly such a good read, and I think it just makes you feel better about being confused about food, and it gives you an insight into how the food industry influences our food choices. And then it's not just us, there's other external influences that cause us to pick certain foods. But I'm a huge believer that if you have awareness, that's the first step. And maybe with that awareness, maybe you're not changing your health habits or your eating habits, but you're changing the ones for your kids. And then that's good, because then they'll grow up healthier, and it'll be like a ripple effect. So check it out, and I'll see you in the next one.